Commander Zara Khan stood on the observation deck of the Dominion warship, his four arms crossed in amusement. Through the massive viewport, Earth hung like a blue marble against the black canvas of space. Around him, his fellow Korthax warriors laughed and pointed at the holographic displays showing human military equipment. "Look at these primitive projectile weapons," Lieutenant Vexara said, her mandibles clicking with mirth. She zoomed in on an image of a human sniper rifle. "They still use chemical propulsion. How quaint." The briefing room erupted in laughter. The Korthax had conquered 17 star systems with their plasma cannons and energy shields. They had fought the crystalline beings of Andromeda and the hive minds of the Outer Rim. To them, humanity's reliance on bullets and gunpowder seemed almost childish. "Their longest confirmed kill is just over 3 of their kilometers," another officer scoffed. "Our plasma rifles can vaporize targets from orbit." Zarkon nodded, his purple scales shimmering under the ship's lights. "The humans call themselves warriors, but they haven't even mastered faster-than-light travel without our intervention. Their weapons are museum pieces." The conquest of Earth was supposed to be simple. The Galactic Council had deemed humanity too primitive to resist properly. The Korthax would land, demonstrate their superiority, and add another servant species to their empire. It was a routine they had performed dozens of times. "Sir," a young ensign interrupted, "we're receiving reports from our ground scouts. The humans have agreed to our terms of engagement. They want to demonstrate their military capabilities before surrendering." More laughter filled the room. "A demonstration? With those antiques?" Vexara's 6 eyes watered with amusement. "This should be entertaining." Zarkon waved a dismissive hand. "Very well. Tell the humans we'll observe their little show. Deploy a standard reconnaissance unit to the coordinates they've provided. Make sure our shields are at minimum power. We wouldn't want to completely embarrass them by being invulnerable to their pea shooters." The location was a valley in what the humans called Montana. Wide open spaces with rolling hills and scattered forests. The Korthax had chosen it specifically because it offered no tactical advantage to defenders. Their dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, leaving trails of ionized air in their wake. 40 Korthax soldiers materialized on the ground, their armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. Each warrior stood 3 meters tall, their exoskeletons enhanced with servo motors that gave them incredible strength. Their plasma rifles hummed with barely contained energy, and their personal shields flickered like soap bubbles around their bodies. "Spread out," Zarkon ordered through the communication network. "Let's see what these humans consider impressive. Remember, we're here to evaluate their threat level for the conquest records. Try not to laugh too hard." The squad moved across the terrain with practiced efficiency. Their sensors detected no immediate threats. No energy signatures, no advanced technology. Just the natural sounds of Earth's wilderness and the distant whisper of wind through grass. "I'm reading primitive radio communications," the tech specialist reported. "The humans are broadcasting on ancient electromagnetic frequencies. They're actually proud of this technology." Vexara checked her chronometer. "We've been here for 7 minutes, Commander. Perhaps the humans got scared and ran away?" "Patience," Zarkon replied, though he too was growing bored. "Let them have their moment. Once they realize the futility of resistance, the surrender will be swifter." They continued their patrol, moving through the valley with casual arrogance. The Korthax had fought in the methane swamps of Titan Beta and the zero-gravity battlefields around black holes. This peaceful Earth Valley felt like a training exercise for younglings. 20 minutes passed. The soldiers began to relax even more, some even powering down their weapons to conserve energy. They joked about human military tactics, sharing stories from the intelligence briefings. Humans still used camouflage patterns. They still dug trenches. They still relied on supply lines that could be severed from orbit. "Commander," one soldier called out, "I found something amusing." He held up a spent shell casing, examining it with all four hands. They leave their ammunition waste on the ground. No energy reclamation, no molecular recycling, just metal trash. The discovery sparked another round of mockery. The Korthax passed the shell casing around like a curiosity, marveling at its primitive simplicity. How could a species that had reached the nuclear age still rely on such crude methods of warfare? You know what's even more hilarious? Vexara added. Their soldiers have to account for wind. Can you imagine? Having to calculate air movement for your weapon to work properly? And bullet drop, another soldier chimed in. They have to aim above their targets at long range because gravity pulls their projectiles down. Our plasma bolts travel in straight lines at near light speed. Zarkon was about to respond when his communication device crackled. It was the ship's intelligence officer. Commander, we've finished analyzing their weapons database. You won't believe this, but they have specialists called snipers who train for years just to hit targets at range. Years for what we could do with a basic targeting computer. The ground team found this particularly amusing. In Korthax society, marksmanship was a basic skill programmed into their neural interfaces during adolescence. The idea of spending years perfecting something so simple seemed impossibly wasteful. 35 minutes had now elapsed since their landing. The sun was beginning to cast longer shadows across the valley. Some soldiers had found comfortable rocks to sit on, their weapons leaning against their legs like walking sticks. They discussed what Earth delicacies they would try once the planet surrendered. Several had heard about something called chocolate. Their maximum effective range is laughable. The tech specialist continued reading from the human military files. Most of their infantry weapons are only accurate to a few hundred meters. Even their special forces... He never finished the sentence. A sound like distant thunder rolled across the valley. It was quiet, barely audible over the wind, but something about it made every Korthax soldier freeze. Their evolved instincts, honed across 100 battlefields, suddenly screamed danger. "What was that?" Vexara asked, her casual demeanor vanishing. Before anyone could answer, Private Kextor's head exploded. It happened so fast that for a moment, nobody moved. The young soldier's body stood upright for a full second, purple blood fountaining from where his head had been, before crumpling to the ground. His personal shield flickered and died, having failed to stop whatever had killed him. "Contact! We have contact!" someone screamed. The Korthax soldiers, veterans of dozen campaigns, reacted with trained precision. They dove for cover, weapons powering up, shields strengthening. But there was no enemy to target, no energy signatures, no movement, just the empty valley and the wind. Another crack of thunder. This time, Zarkon saw it happen. Sergeant Mordash was crouching behind a boulder when something punched through his chest armor like it was made of paper. The impact lifted him off his feet and threw him backward. Purple blood painted the rock behind him. "Where are they firing from?" Zarkon roared into his communicator. "Give me a location!" His soldiers frantically scanned with every sensor at their disposal. Thermal imaging showed nothing. Motion detectors were silent. Energy scanners found no weapons discharge. It was as if death itself was reaching out from the empty air. The chronometer on Zarkon's wrist showed 42 minutes since landing. Another shot. This time, Lieutenant Hexal's knee exploded. He fell screaming, his leg hanging by threads of tissue. A medic rushed to help him and took a round through both hearts. The medic spun like a dancer before collapsing in a heap. "The shots are coming from everywhere? Nowhere!" The tech specialist's voice cracked with panic. "I can't get a lock. There's no energy signature. How are they doing this?" 44 minutes. 2 more soldiers fell in quick succession. One lost his primary arms at the shoulders. Another took a hit that carved a fist-sized hole through his abdomen. Both were kill shots, delivered with surgical precision. "Fall back to the dropships," Zarkon commanded. They needed to retreat, regroup, figure out what impossible weapon the humans had deployed. But as his soldiers tried to move, the killing intensified. Every time someone broke cover, thunder would roll across the valley and another Korthax would fall. They were pinned down, trapped by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't detect, couldn't understand. 45 minutes. "Commander!" Vexara gasped, pressed flat against the ground. "The shots! They're coming from different directions. Multiple shooters. They've been here the whole time, watching us mock them." The realization hit Zarkon like a plasma blast. The humans hadn't been demonstrating their weapons in the traditional sense. They had been demonstrating them practically. And the Korthax, in their arrogance, had walked right into the killing field. He thought about the shell casing they had found. Not trash, but evidence of preparation. The humans had been here before them, studying the terrain, calculating distances, preparing positions. While the Korthax had laughed at the idea of accounting for wind and gravity, human snipers had been doing exactly that, turning environmental factors into advantages. Another soldier tried to run. He made it 3 steps before his head vanished in a spray of purple mist. The shot had come from so far away that the sound arrived 2 seconds after the impact. 46 minutes. Zarkon's communication device crackled again. This time it wasn't his ship calling. The voice that came through spoke accented Galactic standard, calm and professional. "Commander Zarkon, this is Sergeant Major Thompson, United States Marine Corps. I'm the spotter for the shooter who just took your runner at 2,700 meters. That's about 2 3/4 kilometers, in case you're counting." The commander's 4 hands trembled. "Impossible. No chemical projectile weapon has that range with accuracy." "You're right about one thing," Thompson continued. "We do have to account for wind. 15 knots from the northwest currently. We also calculate for the Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation, air density, temperature gradients, and about 17 other variables. My shooter incorporates all of that in the 4 seconds between acquiring you and pulling the trigger." Another crack. Another Korthax soldier collapsed, his spine severed at the neck. "That was my partner," Thompson said conversationally. "We call him Reaper. He's prone about 3 clicks east of your position. That's 3 kilometers. He's been watching you through his scope since you landed. Every joke, every dismissive gesture. Every moment you spent underestimating us." Zarkon pressed himself lower, his mind racing. 3 kilometers. These primitive humans were killing his soldiers from 3 kilometers away with chemical propulsion weapons. It defied everything he knew about ballistic limitations. "You have snipers," he growled into the communicator. "So what? We have orbital bombardment capabilities. We have—" "You have 14 soldiers left," Thompson interrupted. "We have 6 shooter-spotter teams positioned around this valley. Each team has been assigned specific targets based on your rank insignia and behavior patterns. Would you like to know who's next?" The words chilled Zarkon more than any plasma blast ever had. The humans had been studying them, analyzing them, preparing a perfect ambush while the Korthax had stood around laughing at shell casings. "Your technology specialist, the one with the scanner," Thompson continued. "He's been designated Target 15. He keeps raising his head every 43 seconds to check his instruments. Next time he does it, Sarah's going to put a 50 caliber round through his optical cluster." As if on cue, the tech specialist started to raise his head. Zarkon screamed a warning, but it was too late. The thunder rolled, and the specialist's head snapped back. His complex eyes turned to purple ruin. 13 left, Thompson noted. "You know what the funny thing is, Commander? You were right about us being primitive. We don't have plasma weapons or energy shields. We can't travel faster than light. But we've been killing each other with projectile weapons for thousands of years. We've gotten very, very good at it." More shots rang out in rapid succession. The Korthax tried to return fire, spraying plasma bolts at empty hillsides and silent forests. Their advanced weapons, so effective in ship-to-ship combat and urban warfare, were useless against an enemy they couldn't locate. "Your shields are impressive," Thompson admitted. "They stop energy weapons beautifully. But kinetic energy is a different beast. A 50 caliber armor-piercing round carries about 20,000 joules of energy concentrated into a tiny point. Your shields are designed to disperse plasma. They can't handle that kind of focused physical impact. Zarkon watched another soldier fall, then another. His mighty warriors, conquerors of star systems, were being methodically executed by humans lying in the dirt kilometers away. "We've been preparing for this day since we first detected your ships," Thompson said. "Every military on Earth has been training, adapting, preparing. We knew you'd come eventually, and we knew you'd underestimate us. Advanced species always do. They see our bullets and laugh, right up until those bullets start finding gaps in their shields, weak points in their armor, vital organs in their bodies." The commander's mind reeled. How many snipers did Earth have? How many patient, calculating killers who could thread a projectile through wind and distance to deliver death with mechanical precision? "I'll make you a deal, Commander," Thompson offered. "Order your ships to leave Earth's orbit. Go back to your Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity declines their offer of servitude. Do that, and we'll let your surviving soldiers return to their dropships. And if I refuse? Then in about 30 seconds, you'll have 0 soldiers left instead of 9. Your choice." Zarkon looked around at his remaining warriors. They were pressed against rocks and trees, eyes wide with terror. These weren't soldiers anymore. They were prey, hunted by predators they never saw coming. The mighty Korthax Empire, brought low by humans with rifles. He thought about the intelligence reports they had dismissed. Humans were persistence hunters, the reports had said. They would wound prey and follow it for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their snipers embodied this principle perfectly: patient, invisible, inexorable. "Oh, and Commander," Thompson added, "that rifle you found so amusing, the one in our military museum, it's actually my personal weapon. Built in 1942, still kills just as well today as it did 80 years ago. Sometimes primitive is perfectly lethal." The weight of their miscalculation crashed down on Zarkon like a collapsing star. They had come to conquer Earth believing human weapons were relics. Instead, they had discovered that humans had turned those relics into an art form. As he opened his mouth to give the order to retreat, one thought dominated his mind. What other surprises did these primitive humans have waiting for them? The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the crystalline chambers of the neutral station orbiting Proxima Centauri. Representatives from 47 species gathered, their forms ranging from the gaseous nebula collective to the silicon-based architects of Kepler. At the center of attention stood Commander Zarkon, his purple scales dulled with shame, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. "You lost 31 soldiers to primitive projectile weapons." The voice belonged to Ambassador Thys of the ethereal Commonwealth, her translucent form pulsing with disbelief. "The mighty Korthax, defeated by chemical propulsion?" Zarkon's mandibles clicked in frustration. "You don't understand. These humans, they've perfected the art of killing from distance. They turned their limitations into advantages." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Galactic Council had expected Earth's conquest to be a formality, a simple addition to the collective. Instead, they were facing something unprecedented: a primitive species that had defeated a technologically superior force. "Show them the footage," Zarkon commanded his aide. The holographic display materialized in the chamber's center. The assembled representatives watched the helmet camera feeds from the deceased Korthax soldiers. They saw the valley, heard the mockery, witnessed the systematic execution. When the recording ended, silence filled the chamber like a physical presence. "Fascinating," wheezed the representative from the Methane Alliance. "They used no detectable energy signatures. Our scanners would be equally blind." "Precisely," Zarkon said. "Their snipers are like ghosts. They could be anywhere, watching through scopes that use simple glass optics. No emissions, no traces. Just patient killers waiting for the perfect shot." Admiral Krextor of the Korthax fleet stepped forward. This setback is embarrassing but hardly catastrophic. We'll simply bombard their positions from orbit. No sniper can shoot down a battle cruiser. And violate 17 treaties in the process? Ambassador Thies interjected. The Council agreed to measured escalation. Besides, have you considered what weapons the humans might be hiding? If they've perfected kinetic warfare to this degree? She didn't need to finish. Every species present understood the implication. Earth's nuclear arsenal was well documented, but what else had they developed? What other primitive technologies had they refined into instruments of devastating efficiency? The debate raged for hours. Hawks called for immediate orbital strikes. Doves suggested negotiation. The merchant guilds worried about trade disruptions. The scientific communities wanted to study human warfare techniques. Through it all, Zarkon stood silent, remembering the voice of Sergeant Major Thompson and the terrible patience in it. Meanwhile, on Earth, the story of the Montana Valley Massacre, as human media had dubbed it, spread like wildfire. In a nondescript building in Virginia, General Patricia Hayes reviewed after-action reports with her staff. 31 confirmed kills, 0 casualties, she read aloud. Outstanding work by the teams. The psychological impact was even better than we hoped, Colonel Martinez added. The Korthax survivors' testimonies are spreading through their fleet. They're terrified of snipers now. Some refuse to leave their ships. Hayes nodded. Good. Fear is a weapon, too. What's the status on Operation Long Eye? All 50,000 sniper teams are in position globally, Martinez reported. Urban hides, rural positions, mobile units. If the Korthax land again, they'll face a bullet from every direction. The room's main screen showed a world map dotted with blue markers. Each represented a sniper team. Patient, invisible, ready. 50,000 rifles pointed at the sky, waiting for alien targets. The beautiful thing, Hayes continued, is that they can't adapt their shields quickly. Energy weapons and kinetic weapons operate on fundamentally different principles. By the time they recalibrate, we'll have moved to the next phase. Speaking of which, another officer interjected, Project Reach is ahead of schedule. The prototype rail sniper platforms are testing at 8 kilometers effective range. Hayes smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. 8 kilometers, and they thought 3 was impossible. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Korthax fleet remained in position, but paralyzed by indecision. Ship Captain Voxar paced the bridge of her cruiser, reviewing intelligence reports. Every analysis came to the same conclusion. Ground invasion would be catastrophic without a solution to the sniper problem. Captain, her sensor officer called out, we're detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface. Define unusual. Construction. Massive construction projects in remote areas. They appear to be digging. Voxar studied the orbital imagery. Across Earth's wilderness regions, humans were creating elaborate tunnel systems and underground facilities. They were burrowing into mountains, diving beneath deserts, disappearing into the planet itself. They're building hides, she realized. Turning the entire planet into a sniper's nest. Her tactical officer agreed. If they're creating hardened positions with overlapping fields of fire, Captain, we could land 1 million troops and still take unsustainable casualties. Every hill, every building, every pile of rubble could hide a shooter. The captain's scales rippled with frustration. How did you fight an enemy that turned invisibility into a weapon? How did you conquer a species that had elevated hiding and shooting into an art form? There's more, the sensor officer continued. We're intercepting communications about something called the Ghost Protocol. Military transmissions are referencing sleeper shots and generational positions. What does that mean? Unknown, but human military history suggests, Captain, I think they're planning to embed snipers for long-term deployment, years, possibly decades, waiting for targets. The implications sent a chill through the bridge crew. The humans weren't just defending against the current invasion. They were preparing for a war that could last generations. Patient killers scattered across their world, waiting in hidden positions, ready to take a shot whether it came tomorrow or in 20 years. Back on Earth, in a bunker carved into the Colorado Rockies, Sergeant Major Thompson cleaned his rifle while briefing a room full of international sniper instructors. The Korthax made 3 critical errors, he explained, running a cloth along the weapon's barrel. First, they assumed technological superiority meant tactical superiority. Second, they dismissed the value of patience and terrain knowledge. Third, and most importantly, they didn't respect the gun. He held up the rifle, its worn wooden stock and simple metal construction, a stark contrast to the high-tech classroom around them. This weapon doesn't need batteries. It doesn't emit radiation. It can't be hacked or disabled by EMP. It can lie buried in mud for a decade and still fire when dug up. It's simple, reliable, and lethal. Everything their fancy plasma guns aren't. A hand raised from the audience. What about their spacecraft? We can't shoot those down with rifles. Thompson smiled. Can't we? Private Chen, tell them about your idea. A young woman stood up. We've been studying their landing patterns. The Korthax dropships have to slow down and stabilize at about 3,000 meters altitude during descent. They're vulnerable for approximately 45 seconds. And, Thompson prompted, and a coordinated volley from multiple heavy-caliber rifles targeting the same weak point could theoretically breach their hull integrity. We've run simulations. 300 shooters firing armor-piercing incendiary rounds in sequence could punch through their belly armor. The room buzzed with excitement. It was insane. It was primitive. It was exactly the kind of asymmetric thinking that had already shocked the galaxy. The aliens expect us to fight their war, Thompson concluded. Ship to ship, army to army. But that's not our war. Our war is fought one bullet at a time, one target at a time. We're not soldiers, we're hunters, and Earth is our hunting ground. In orbit, the standoff continued. The Korthax fleet received hourly updates from their intelligence network, each report more disturbing than the last. Humans were training children in marksmanship. They were manufacturing ammunition in quantities that defied reason. They were turning sniper warfare into a cultural movement. Videos surfaced on human networks. Teenagers hitting targets at 1,000 meters. Grandmothers assembling rifles blindfolded. Corporate executives taking tactical shooting vacations. The entire species was transforming into a civilization of marksmen. Commander Zar Khan, still aboard the flagship, studied the latest psychological profiles. They're not afraid, he told the Admiral. They should be terrified of our technology, but they're not. They're excited. Excited? Admiral Krextor's mandibles clicked in confusion. They see this as a challenge, a chance to prove that skill matters more than technology. Look at their social media. They're calling it the David and Goliath moment. They want us to land troops so they can hunt them. The Admiral's 4 hands clenched in frustration. This is insane. We have the power to glass their cities. And unite the galaxy against us, Zarkon reminded him. The Council is watching. If we resort to planetary bombardment against a pre-FTL species, we become the monsters. We lose all legitimacy. So what do you suggest? Zarkon was quiet for a long moment. We negotiate. We find a face-saving exit. Because if we continue this invasion, we'll win eventually, but the cost... Every Korthax soldier will spend their deployment terrified of windows. Every patrol will wonder if today is the day a human ghost puts a bullet through their brain from 2 miles away. You're suggesting we fear primitives? I'm suggesting we respect them. There's a difference. The argument might have continued, but alarms suddenly blazed across the bridge. Proximity alert! The sensor officer screamed. Something just appeared directly beneath us. On the main screen, a small human craft materialized seemingly from nowhere. It was ugly, angular, and bristling with unusual protrusions. Before anyone could react, those protrusions fired, not energy weapons, not missiles. Kinetic penetrators launched from magnetic rails, hundreds of them, targeted at specific points along the flagship's hull. The shields, still calibrated for energy weapons, offered minimal resistance. The penetrators didn't explode. They punched through the outer hull and lodged deep in the ship's structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Korthax detected the real threat. Each penetrator was hollow, and something was pouring out of them. "Nanites!" the tech officer screamed. "They're releasing nanites into our systems!" But they weren't nanites. The scans revealed something far more primitive and far more terrifying: genetically modified bacteria that fed on the specific alloys used in Korthax technology. Within minutes, critical systems began to corrode. Hull breaches appeared as metal literally dissolved. "How?" Admiral Krextor demanded. The answer came via broadcast from the human craft. "This is Captain Sarah Mitchell, United States Space Force. Yeah, we have one of those now. Surprise! You folks spent so much time laughing at our bullets that you never asked what else we might be shooting. By the way, those bacteria, they're programmed to stop reproducing after about an hour. We're not monsters, but your ship will need some serious repairs." The small craft fired another volley, this time at the cruiser adjacent to the flagship. More penetrators, more bacteria, more Korthax systems beginning to fail. "Oh, and fair warning," Captain Mitchell continued. "We've got about 300 of these stealth ships in orbit. We've been building them in underground facilities for the past 5 years. Turns out, when you're good at hiding snipers, you get pretty good at hiding spacecraft too." The Korthax fleet's sensors went wild as hundreds of human vessels dropped their stealth systems. They had been there all along, floating silently among the debris fields and satellite orbits, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Each ship was a masterpiece of human ingenuity. No shields, no energy weapons, just kinetic weapons, stealth systems, and the patient courage of their crews. They had turned Earth's orbit into another sniper's nest, scaled up to spacecraft. "The thing about snipers," Mitchell's voice continued, "is that they're never just about the rifle. They're about position, patience, and knowing when to take the shot. We've been in position for months, we've been patient for years, and now we're taking our shots." Admiral Krextor watched his mighty fleet begin to list and drift as bacteria ate through critical systems. His warriors were trained for energy battles, for shield management and plasma tactics. They had no doctrine for fighting an enemy that infected their ships like a disease. "All vessels, retreat to minimum safe distance," he commanded. It galled him to order a withdrawal, but the situation was spiraling beyond control. As the Korthax fleet pulled back, licking their wounds, Earth's message was clear. They might not have energy shields or faster-than-light travel, but they had turned warfare into a different kind of science. A patient, precise, terrifying science that transformed every human into a potential threat and every shadow into a possible death. In the bunker beneath Colorado, Thompson watched the orbital footage and nodded approvingly. "See? Same principle, different scale. Hide, wait, strike when they least expect it. Doesn't matter if it's a rifle or a spacecraft. The philosophy remains the same." His students watched in awe as Earth's ramshackle fleet held position, ready to respond if the Korthax tried to advance again. It was the same lesson written large across the cosmos. Never underestimate a patient hunter with a kinetic weapon. The age of the sniper had arrived, and it extended from Earth's surface to the stars themselves. The neutral zone meeting took place on Luna Station, humanity's moon base that had been hastily converted into a diplomatic facility. Ambassador Chen Wei represented Earth, her weathered face showing the strain of the past months. Across from her sat Supreme Counselor Nex Theta of the Galactic Council, a being whose crystalline form refracted light into rainbow patterns. Between them lay a simple wooden table, and on that table sat a single bullet. "This," Chen said, picking up the ammunition, is a .308 Winchester round. It weighs 180 grains, travels at approximately 2,800 feet per second, and costs about $2 to manufacture. Your empire has spent the equivalent of 17 star systems' annual output trying to defend against it. Nexitheta's form pulsed with indignation. You dare mock the council? I dare to illustrate a point, Chen replied calmly. You came to Earth expecting to fight your kind of war, energy weapons, shields, grand fleet battles. Instead, you found our kind of war, patient, persistent, personal. She set the bullet down with a soft click that seemed to echo in the chamber. Do you know what makes humanity dangerous, Counselor? It's not our weapons. It's our willingness to master them. A Korthax soldier trains for 5 years. A human sniper? Some of ours have been perfecting their craft for 40 years. 1 shot, 1 kill, 1 lifetime of preparation. Your victory was a fluke, another council member interjected. It was the ethereal Commonwealth representative, her gaseous form roiling with agitation. Surprise and primitive cunning, nothing more. Chen smiled. It wasn't a warm expression. Would you like a demonstration? Right now, as we speak, there are 17 snipers positioned around this base. Each one has a council member in their crosshairs through these transparent walls. The one assigned to you, Counselor Nexus Theta, is named Anna. She's 63 years old, a grandmother of 5, and she can put a round through your central consciousness node from 2 kilometers away in 1/6 gravity. The council members instinctively moved away from the walls. Chen's smile widened. She won't shoot, of course. We're here to talk peace. But the fact that you moved, that tells me you've learned to respect the rifle. What do you want? Nexitheta's translated voice carried undertones of frustration and, yes, fear. Recognition as a sovereign species, full membership in the Galactic Council, trade rights, technology exchanges, and most importantly, an acknowledgement that Earth's defense forces will remain exactly as they are. You expect to join the galactic community while maintaining primitive weapons? We expect to join while maintaining effective weapons, Chen corrected. Let me tell you a story, Counselor. 3 months ago, a Vraxian pirate fleet tried to raid our mining operation on Ceres. 12 ships, energy weapons, full shields. Do you know what happened to them? The council members exchanged glances. The Vraxian incident had been mysteriously absent from intelligence reports. We had 1 sniper team stationed on Ceres. 1. They put a tungsten round through the flagship's command deck viewport at 8,000 meters, in vacuum, through a magnetic accelerator we'd built into a mining scaffold. The round traveled at 12 kilometers per second and turned the pirate captain into vapor. The rest of the fleet surrendered immediately. She leaned forward. Every human colony, every ship, every installation has sniper teams now. We've turned marksmanship into our cultural identity. Where other species build bigger shields, we build better rifles. Where you see empty space, we see firing positions. Where you feel safe, we see opportunities. The Supreme Counselor's form shifted, considering. The human's words carried an uncomfortable truth. The galaxy had spent millennia focused on energy weapons and defensive shields. They had forgotten the simple, brutal efficiency of kinetic warfare. You propose to police the galaxy with rifles? We propose to defend ourselves with whatever works, Chen replied, and maybe help others do the same. There are species out there being oppressed because they can't afford plasma cannons or shield generators. But a rifle, a scope, patience and training, those are achievable. Those level the playing field. You would share this technology? Chen laughed. Technology? Counselor, the principles of ballistics have been public knowledge on Earth for centuries. What we'd share is expertise, training, philosophy, the understanding that warfare isn't about who has the biggest gun, but who uses their gun best. She stood, walking to the transparent wall that offered a view of Earth hanging in the black sky. Look at our world, Counselor. No energy shields protect it. No plasma cannons defend it. Just millions of humans with rifles, watching the sky, waiting. Can your energy weapons defeat that? Can your shields stop patient hunters scattered across a planet? Can your fleets conquer people who've turned their entire civilization into one vast sniper's nest? The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Finally, Nexus Theta spoke. The council will need to deliberate. Of course, Chen agreed. Take your time. But while you deliberate, remember that we're watching. We're always watching. Through scopes that don't emit energy, with weapons that don't announce their presence, from positions you'll never detect. That's not a threat, counselor. It's simply who we are now. The meeting adjourned, but the real negotiations happened in the hours that followed. Council members huddled in shielded rooms, debating humanity's proposition. Military advisors ran simulations, trying to find ways to counter patient killers with kinetic weapons. The results were universally grim. The Korthax representative summarized it best. Conquering Earth would require ground troops. Ground troops would face snipers. Urban warfare would multiply the threat exponentially. We'd lose millions taking their cities and then face generations of insurgent marksmen. Victory would be Pyrrhic at best. What about quarantine? Suggested the Methane Alliance. Isolate them. Let them stagnate with their primitive weapons. And when they develop FTL on their own, the ethereal Commonwealth countered. When human sniper ships start appearing in our systems, do we want humanity as a rogue element or as a member with stakes in stability? The debate raged for days. During that time, humanity demonstrated their reach in subtle ways. A Korthax supply ship found a tungsten round embedded in its hull plating, placed there by a stealth craft no one had detected. A council member's personal yacht discovered a playing card taped to a viewport, with crosshairs drawn over the face. The message was clear. We can touch you whenever we want. On Earth, the transformation continued. What had begun as military necessity evolved into cultural revolution. Shooting clubs sprouted in every neighborhood. Children learned ballistics alongside mathematics. The patient-focused mindset of the sniper permeated society. Crime plummeted as potential wrongdoers realized any window might hide a trained marksman. International conflicts shifted to sharpshooting competitions rather than wars. General Hayes watched it all from her command center, now expanded to coordinate Earth's global sniper network. Status report, she requested. Active sniper teams number 1.2 million globally, her aide reported. Another 50 million civilians qualified to expert level. Ammunition production is meeting demand with surplus for strategic reserves. The lunar mass driver test successfully launched a kinetic penetrator at 0.0003 C. Hayes nodded. 3,000ths the speed of light. Slow by galactic standards, but devastating when it hit. And Project Longbow? The first interstellar sniper platform is under construction at L5, designed to look like an asteroid, minimal emissions, carrying a spinal-mounted railgun capable of launching telephone pole-sized tungsten rounds at relativistic speeds. If it works, we can hold choke points throughout the solar system. Not if. When, Hayes corrected. Humanity doesn't do if anymore. We do when, where, and how far. 3 weeks after the Luna Station meeting, the Galactic Council reconvened. The vote was closer than anyone had predicted, but humanity gained provisional membership. The conditions were complex, involving trade agreements and technology sharing, but one clause stood out. Earth's military forces would remain unchanged, recognized as a legitimate defensive structure. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Ambassador Chen signed with an antique fountain pen, another deliberate reminder of humanity's embrace of the simple and functional. Counselor Nexus Theta's energy signature marked the document from the Council's side. Welcome to the Galactic community, Nexus Theta said, the formal words carrying an undertone of resignation. Thank you, Chen replied. We look forward to a peaceful and productive relationship. As the ceremony concluded, she added quietly, But just so we're clear, Counselor, that sniper Anna I mentioned, she's still watching. They all are. They always will be. It's not personal, it's just who we are. The transformation of galactic warfare began slowly. A few species, tired of being bullied by those with superior energy weapons, requested human training. The first interstellar sniper school opened on Mars, teaching precision shooting in various gravities and atmospheres. Students learned not just marksmanship, but the philosophy behind it: patience, persistence, precision. The Korthax Empire, humbled but not broken, became unlikely advocates for kinetic weapon treaties. They had learned the hard way that shields calibrated for energy weapons offered little protection against patient hunters with rifles. Better to regulate than face the proliferation of human-style warfare. But regulation proved impossible. The genie was out of the bottle. Species across the galaxy began developing their own kinetic weapons programs. The age of energy weapon dominance was ending, replaced by an era where a patient marksman could challenge a warship. On Earth, Sergeant Major Thompson retired but continued teaching. His final class drew students from 19 species, all eager to learn from the man who had helped humble the Korthax. He stood before them, his old rifle cradled in his arms like a cherished friend. "This weapon," he began, "is over 80 years old. In that time, it's fired approximately 12,000 rounds. Each one was aimed with purpose. Each one was sent with patience. That's what I want you to understand. It's not about the rifle. It's about the mind behind it." He moved to the window, gazing out at the Montana Valley where it all began. Monument markers now showed where each Korthax soldier had fallen, a reminder of the day humanity announced itself to the galaxy. The galaxy thought us primitive because we use bullets instead of plasma. They thought us weak because we rely on chemistry instead of energy fields. But what we knew, what we've always known, is that complexity isn't strength. Patience is strength. Precision is strength. The willingness to wait for the perfect shot is strength. A young Vraxian raised a tentacle. "But surely energy weapons will adapt? Shields will improve?" Thompson smiled. "Maybe. Probably. But we'll adapt too. We always have. Longer ranges, better ammunition, new techniques. The race between sword and shield never ends. But I'll tell you a secret." He leaned forward conspiratorially. "We're already working on something new. The engineers call it temporal ballistics. Bullets that exist slightly out of phase with normal space-time. Can't be shielded because they're not entirely there until they need to be. Science fiction? Maybe. But then, they said the same thing about shooting someone from 3 kilometers away." The students absorbed this, minds racing with possibilities. The human approach to warfare had opened new avenues of thought. If you could turn a simple bullet into a galaxy-changing weapon, what else could be reimagined? As the class ended and students dispersed to their quarters, Thompson remained at the window. His communicator chimed with a message from General Hayes. He read it and chuckled. "What is it?" his assistant asked. "The Galactic Council wants to hire human snipers as peacekeepers. Seems they've realized that nothing stops a conflict quite like knowing someone's watching through a scope from 2 miles away." "Will we accept?" Thompson considered. "Probably. It's what we're good at. Watching. Waiting. Keeping the peace through the promise of precise violence." He patted his rifle. "Who would have thought that this old girl would change the galaxy?" Outside, the sun set over the Montana mountains. Somewhere in those hills, new snipers were training, learning the art that had saved Earth. They lay prone in the dirt, breathing controlled, watching through scopes, embodying humanity's new role in the galaxy. The age of the energy weapon was over. The age of the patient hunter had begun. And in military academies across known space, the lesson of Earth was taught. Never mock a species that has spent millennia perfecting the art of throwing rocks, because given enough time, they'll learn to throw those rocks with devastating precision. The war for Earth had lasted 46 minutes from first mock to first shot. The change it wrought would last forever. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with fanfare and energy weapons, but with patience, precision, and the quiet confidence of those who had mastered the fundamental art of reaching out across impossible distances to touch their enemies. One shot, one kill, one species that refused to be conquered. The galaxy would never be the same.